Hi, second grade. This is Miss Gonzalez, and this week we'll be talking about the life cycle of a grasshopper. Now, in the life cycle of a grasshopper, there are three stages: the egg, the nymph, and the adult. You may recognize egg because you talked about it last week in the life cycle of a butterfly. Well, it's a stage this week in the life cycle of a grasshopper. The first stage of the grasshopper's life cycle is the egg. If you look at the first picture, you can see the grasshopper laying the eggs. They lay about 15 to 150 eggs, and they're really, really tiny. If you look at the second picture, you can see how tiny the eggs are in comparison to a nickel. The second stage of the life cycle is a nymph. So from the egg, it takes about 2 weeks for the nymph. The nymph is actually just a baby grasshopper, and it comes out of the egg white. But as soon as it gets into the sun, it turns green. The nymph almost looks like an adult grasshopper, except it doesn't have wings. Before the nymph turns into an adult, it molts 5 times. Molting means that the grasshopper eats and grows and breaks out of its hard skin covering called the exoskeleton. And if you look at the picture, the first stage of the nymph, then it molts the first time, goes to the second stage of a nymph, molts the second time, goes to the third stage of a nymph, molts the third time, goes to the fourth stage of a nymph, molts the fourth time, and goes to the fifth stage of the nymph. And after the fifth stage and the fifth molt, then it becomes an adult. The last stage of the grasshopper's life cycle is the adult stage. And this is the stage where the grasshopper does have wings. It still has the same body parts it had during the cycle, but now it can move around, and this helps them find food. I've added pictures of the adult grasshopper here on the side, and I've added the entire life cycle on the side as well. Now that we've been over the life cycle of a grasshopper, let's review. Can you tell me what the first stage of the life cycle is? That's right, it's the egg. Remember, there's 15 to 150 eggs that's laid by the grasshopper. Do you know the second stage is? The nymph. The nymph doesn't have wings, but it does look like a smaller version of the adult. It is white when it comes out of the egg, but turns green as soon as it gets into the sun. Do you remember the last one? The adult. The adult grasshopper does have wings, which allows it to find more food. Now, your activity for this week is to create the grasshopper life cycle. So the materials you're going to need is a paper plate, and if you don't have one, just use a blank piece of paper, a pencil, markers, or crayons. The first step is to create 3 parts on your plate. If you have your paper, draw a circle first and then make 3 sections. The second step is to write 1, 2, 3 on your sections. And you can use the example I gave you to help you mark your sections. Number 3 is to label the grasshopper life cycle in the correct order. So tell me what stage is the egg, what stage is the grasshopper and nymph, and what stage is the grasshopper and adult. Then you're going to draw a picture that shows the grasshopper and what it looks like in each stage. So what does it look like as an egg? What about a nymph? And what does it look like as an adult? And I give you a few pictures in case you need a little help. When you're done, take a picture and send it to your teacher.